This is Red Dog Terrain. Welcome back to the shed. Today we're finishing our winter hut. I started this part of the build by covering the whole terrain in the secret sauce, which is just black paint and Mod Podge. It protects, seals, and coats the whole thing and keeps it safe from spray paint later. I then spray painted the whole thing, used a paintbrush to dab on random splotches of brown paint, and then dry brushed. I imagine the person living in this hut is a bit of a hermit. They escaped to the mountains to get away from the hustle and bustle of life in the big city. They had tired of markets and their trading. They had tired of magical explosions at all hours of the night. They had tired of raids by bugbears. They wanted to experience a quiet life, full of simple things, like will-o-wisps and mountain pixies. They wanted to try and raise almirages. They wanted to try and befriend a tree ant. However, they didn't realize how bitter cold the winters were this high up in the mountains. They didn't know that almirages don't live in the mountains, or that tree ants weren't very fond of making new friends. They didn't know that mountain pixies weren't really a thing. I painted the roof shingles in a bright green, knowing that they would get toned down by dry brushing and by washes. I painted the cap on top of the roof in gunmetal. I painted the interior walls a tan color and the beams a chocolate brown. For the first few years, our hermit loved his home and his freedom, despite the lack of simple pleasures they had hoped for. They whiled away the days collecting firewood and pretty rocks. They kept themselves fed by hunting dire squirrels and deer. They took up whittling and got rather good at it. Our hermit did meet a family of badger folk. Though it did take several months and cautious encounters, they had become friendly. Though the badger folk politely refused to enter his home, the hermit would occasionally have them over for a meal. They would exchange goods and help each other out if need be. However, it was a tenuous friendship, and he was always left wanting for more. I painted all the bricks in a dark zinc color. Then, similar to my other builds, I picked out a few bricks and painted them in bright earth colors like sienna and heritage red. The hinges for the doors are actually cross charms that I cut the tops off and glued on sideways. I used a leftover window from my pub build and put it over the door. Cutting out at this stage was a little tricky, and the fit isn't perfect, but it works well enough. I gave all the wood, stone, and roof a dry brushing of off-white and then a coat of my homemade black wash. The hut was cozy and warm, and the flowers bloomed gently when the spring came. As the snow melted, little brooks and streams formed nearby. A small mountain lake was perfect for fishing. Birds would visit the area looking for bugs peeking out of the defrosting ground. It was a beautiful, secluded area of nature. But in time, that seclusion was more than our hermit could bear. It took lots of convincing and a strong dose of self-motivating talks, but eventually our hermit would be a hermit no more. He packed his most precious belongings, and he gave the rest away to his badger friends. He tidied up the house. He left a note bequeathing the home to the next person who finds and needs it. He shut the door and made his way back to the city. Making snow was by far the most intimidating part of this build. I'd never done anything like this, and definitely not at this scale. I watch plenty of videos on YouTube, and I would recommend Miniac's deep research into the best ways to make snow. Link in the description. I ended up using Mod Podge and baking soda in an approximately 3:2 ratio. I wanted the consistency to be a little bit runnier than toothpaste. Once I got there, I added a touch of metallic ice blue and then lots of mixing. I used a wooden dowel to blot on the snow. It added plenty of volume, but also left irregular peaks and texture. I would like to show you how I did this, but most of the footage is just close-ups of my hand and the almonds container I made the snow in. Sorry. I covered the roof of the hut and all the ledges in the same snow in the same manner. While the snow was still dry, I added Army Painter snow flocking to the whole thing. For the trees, I removed them from the little wooden bases they were on and attached them to sections of branches from the yard. I drilled holes in the foam, cleaned them out, added glue, and slotted them in. For the little trees, I just did glue and stuffed them into the foam. I added a log, a door handle, and a few winter tufts. After painting the sides black, I was done. If you like this video, or the story, or any other videos, I'd appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.